everyone. Welcome back to another amazing episode 52 Authors, 52 Weeks, with me, your host, Dr. Lisa L. Campbell, the Growth Motivator. Today, I have author Cynthia Smalls in the virtual building. And let me make sure you guys can see it. That lights won't let me be great. All right, here we go. Push the button. And let me just tell you, your font is a little small on this book. I had to take my reading glasses out. Um, a 7-step approach to life's challenges. And before we get into, and we all, life be life, and we all have life's challenges. But before we get into the book, I want you to tell our listening, viewing audience a little bit about your background. Don't get too deep into the topic on the book. Just tell them about you as a person.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell, for this opportunity. My name, as you said, my name is Cynthia Smalls, and in my core, I am a wife. I am a mother. I am, at this point in my life, an advocate for people, ladies, mostly Black women, exclusively Black women who have breast cancer. Um, and I currently am retired and enjoying this stage of my life after working for over 30 years for a labor union in the state of New York, and retired and picked up my life and moved to Northern Florida. So this is where I find myself now. I have one adult child, and I'm just happy to be here
I
with you
love
today.
it. So, first of all, let me just say, you don't even look like you're old enough to be retired. And I'm like, let's see, it's 2025. I've been working since 1989. So that is like what, 30, maybe 35 years, something like that. But honestly, I'm just getting started. And I say that because I spent part of my working career, just trying to obtain my education, be a parent, now a wife. And so now I know without a shadow of a doubt that my assignment in life is different. And I literally have been just all in my assignment. But also, I have no plans on retiring. I'm definitely not working as hard as I used to work. I definitely have lots of boundaries in place. But I don't know about retiring.
Well, I worked on the same job for 31 years. And it's funny because on the very first day of the job, they said, well, if you retire from here, you get XYZ benefits. And it was during COVID, and I was working from home, but I had just had enough. I just was overloaded. And I worked in a job where I worked for a labor union, and I helped people with their grievances, with their issues on their work site. So I was helping people all the time, and it was taxing. You put COVID on top of that, and I was just kind of burnt out. But I'm thankful for it because it has now allowed me to follow my passion, and has allowed me to follow my God given assignment, which is in this breast cancer arena.
I love it. And so you spent a lot of time helping others. And one of the things that I have really been holding myself accountable for doing is three things: rest, recover, and renew. And it wasn't until I read this book by Dr. Sandra Dalton Smith. It's called Sacred Rest, that I really understood what it meant to actually rest. And I too was like on that hamster wheel, just doing so much for everybody else. But when you step into your God given purpose, your assignment, you feel like you just floating around in the earth, like not a care in the world. And someone said, how are you like this, but you said you have, the student loan debt, credit card debt, mortgage. Because I don't have, first of all, I don't allow those things to hold me back from doing what I know I'm supposed to be doing, but they're not going anywhere. So why not just enjoy the journey and operate in what I'm supposed to be operating in?
It gives you a fulfillment when you know that this is what you really are supposed to be doing. And I look at it as if all those years I did what I had to do. So now I can do what I want to do. And I'm so passionate about Black women and breast cancer that most of the time it does not feel like work. I don't even realize sometimes. I just kind of jump in and I just do. And I don't really, it doesn't really feel
I
like work.
love it. So let's get into the book. And for those of you who are listening, let me fix my hair. I was watching the Grammys the other day, and I saw Beyonce's award, and then as a woman we notice everything. So I looked to her, must have been her right, and I saw some pieces of hair that was just kind of dangling, and I said, "Oh, uh, she's up there just confident as ever." And then here's me, I'm doing my videos. I'm like trying to fix this, trying to fix that. But so I want to talk about the book. And as I tell all authors, we cannot tell them everything that's in the book because then they won't have a need to get this book. But just to set the stage, in the book you talk about the meaning of the term push the button is there is always another chance. And I love that because I think that most of us think that when life gets us down, that's it. And we struggle to, pick ourselves back up. So in the book, you talk about breast cancer. So let's first, if you could tell our listening, viewing audience about your journey with breast cancer.
Sure, I would have to go back to 2016, and I was went had an appointment for my regularly scheduled mammogram. Not a big deal. Show up to the office, and the nurse happens to say to me, "Mrs. Smalls, do you want to have a 3D mammogram?" I did not even know what it was. She explained it to me, and she said, "It's like if you have a TV from 1976 and now it's 2016. Both are color TVs and both are going to give you a picture, but that 2016, that's high def, and it's going to give you more layers and a clearer picture." And I said, "You know what? I'll do it." I didn't really think, I was just really casual about it. She said, "Well, your insurance is not going to cover the extra costs." And I said, "Here's the card, do it." And that happened to save my life, Dr. Campbell, because had I not had that 3D mammogram, the cancer that was in my right breast would have stayed undetected because
Mm.
it would not have shown up on a regular mammogram that was available at that time. And that led me to being diagnosed with stage one. It's called DCIS, ductal incarcinoma in situ. And my particular cancer was buried very deep in my breast, so you would not have felt it. It would only have been detected by this 3D mammogram, and it was a very fast growing cancer. So it's good that I did catch it and I caught it early because I was able to have a lumpectomy. I was able to have radiation. Um, and with that journey, I went through a lot of changes emotionally, physically, spiritually. And one of the challenges that I had was that when you get diagnosed, they kind of flood you with information, books, pamphlets, websites, support groups, all this kind of stuff. But none of the women depicted in these images look like me. Not a one. And it was harmful to me because it impeded my healing. because it made me feel invisible. So not only am I sick with breast cancer, you giving me all this information that with women and not one looks like me. Am I an anomaly? Are black women not getting breast cancer? I was not very educated at that time. So once I healed, I decided to do something about it. And I created my blog, which is named Melanin and Pink Ribbons. I knew nothing about blogging. I knew nothing about anything, but I knew I had to make a difference because I wanted the black women that came behind me to understand that there's help out there, there's resources out there, and more importantly, for women to teach their daughters, to teach their granddaughters, to teach their nieces about breast health. Unfortunately, in our community, we're not very good about teaching that, right? It's our breasts are very sexualized, so we don't teach it as we should. But I think it's getting better. I think it's getting better now.
Wow, you said so many different things. So let me just kind of go back to a few of them. And I should have been writing notes because, as you get older, you don't remember everything. But one of the things you talked about was the type of mammogram that you got. And I think a lot of the general public um, don't understand that there's more than one type of mammogram. There's a diagnostic mammogram and there's a screening mammogram, right? And so, number one, first and foremost, it is very important for all of us to know our family history about cancer, not just breast cancer, but cancer in general, but just know your family history. So, in my cell phone, which I can do more than just TikTok and Instagram, I have my family history in my phone because I know that there are some things that, for example, on my mother's family, that every woman in my family has had. And so I made sure that I have that information captured in writing. I told my younger cousin, because we spent a significant amount of time together, because I believe in, having those conversations. But number two, I think it's important for us to continue to encourage women to get those mammograms every year. And you can be like me. I don't get mine done in October. I get mine done in November. That's the date that I've always gotten them done in. And it is something that is just a personal commitment to myself. On my list of things to do, I have those screening tests like listed on my file so that it's front and center so that I keep them top of mind. But the other thing you talked about was that the type of cancer that you had was a carcinoma in situ. And for those of you who don't know, I am trained as a medical coder, clinical documentation improvement specialist. And so I happen to know a little bit about medical terminology, anatomy. I'm not a physician, right? But carcinoma in situ really means that the cancer is confined to the point of origin where it originated at. And so it's not spreading. And so there are other types. But the fact that the nurse told you or asked you if you wanted that test, and you decided, despite the cost, you were going to get that test, literally saved your life, and now is allowing you to encourage other women who look like you, who look like me, to get the test done. But I'm also just reminded of, as being a younger woman, my mother and grandmothers and aunts didn't really talk about mammograms other than the fact that they hurt. And when I had mine, I was like, it doesn't really hurt. It's uncomfortable, but it did not hurt, right? I
Mm-hmm.
recently went to the chiropractor and he adjusted my neck. Now that I was like, yeah, this is not for Lisa, because that first of all, it shocked me, right? But on top of that, it just wasn't a feeling that I I think I could tolerate, primarily because I have a low tolerance to pain. But so, in addition to you being this breast cancer advocate, um, I think I saw on social media that you are also on the board of a nonprofit that works with women in breast cancer.
I certainly am. I serve on the name of the organization is Pink Me, and it is based in New Mexico. And I serve as the secretary on that board. And what we do is raise funds to provide women with grants because many women, when they get diagnosed, they can't continue to work. Not everybody has sick days. It depends on where you work, what the structure is like. But there are a lot of women who are in service industry jobs, right? They don't have the best benefits and they are sick. So they have surgery, they can't, they aren't able to return to work, or they're going through chemo and they're sick. And when you're sick and you can't work, you can't call the mortgage company and say, I need to, excuse me, I need to tap out because I'm sick over here. So, what we do is we raise funds to provide women with grants to help them to sustain their life because many women who are diagnosed are mothers, they have younger children, or they have children in college. And one thing you learn when you are sick with any disease is life keeps on lifing, right? Life does not stop because Cynthia or anybody else was diagnosed with any type of disease. So we also in Pink Me just started a new function, a new program. We found that many of our friends, they were able to pay their bills with the grants that we helped them with, but they weren't able to buy food, Dr. Campbell.
Hmm.
They weren't able to buy food, right? I have a choice. I'm going to buy this medicine that's helping me, or I'm going to buy food. And I got this baby or these two kids or whatever, and I don't have any food. So we recently started a new program that we assist the women with purchasing food for them and have it delivered to their house. Because if you're well enough to take, you can't always have they don't always have the money to fulfill
Wow.
all of their needs. So, but that's part of my heart. That's part of my passion work that I do.
I love it. So now we probably have about, I don't know, 15 minutes left. So let's talk a little bit about the book. So, what made you write this book?
This book is really a compilation of my 31 years of working and working with people. And I came to a couple of observations. There are people out there that have very high skill sets, have very high levels of common sense, and have no problem navigating life. Those are the minority, right? There's a greater minority majority of people who just have poor decision making skills. Sometimes we find ourselves through a death, through the loss of a job, through something tragic, we just find ourselves in a negative space. And in our community, we don't always teach positive coping skills, right? We teach, and I can only use myself as an example. My mom passed away, I was 13 years old. And my family, there was no counselors, there was no therapists, there was no support groups. There may have been, but there was none in my community. And the only thing they knew to do was to give me some food. So food at a young age became my coping mechanism, became a part of my coping mechanism. Um, it wasn't the healthiest thing, but that's all they had. As I got older, I realized, ooh, relying on this cheesecake is not the smartest thing. This roast beef might take me out. So I wrote the book to give people some action steps to move from a negative space to a more positive space.
Wow. You said a lot. I recall growing up, it was like, so you had food. For us, it was like, just pray about it. And I'm like, you gotta pray. I firmly believe in prayer, but you also need to talk about it. You need to release it, and work through it. And if you don't have the tools and the resources to work through it, it works you.
You stay stuck. That's what happens,
Yes.
right? We stay stuck in a negative place, and before you know it, our health is suffering. We're stressed out. We're short patient. We get labeled as angry black women. Nobody wants to talk to us. All because we sometimes just don't have the coping skills to move to a positive space.
Ah, yes, 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 yes. So let's talk about the book a little bit. So you realized that there was a need for to help the majority of the population, but how did writing the book help you?
That's a mouthful. Writing the book was cathartic for me because I was able, in writing the book, it brought up some things that I thought were, I dealt with that. That's in my rear view. That's in the past. And I realized I still had some ouches. I still had some little pressure points that I hadn't really thought about that in a long time because I'm not in that space. I'm over it. Ooh, girl, you're not over it. You're not over it. So it allowed me to work the steps so that I could help other people.
Wow. So, one of the things that's on my wish list for 52 authors, 52 weeks is to really help children and adults understand the benefits of reading. I was fortunate as a young person to be forced to go to the public library by my father. And one of the things that I've come to appreciate as an adult is that a lot of the things that I need to navigate life, to grow in business, are in a book. People make this assumption that, oh, you got this PhD, you know everything. Absolutely not. And if I could be honest, I've gotten the most knowledge from reading books that are written by, all sorts of authors, because it allows me an opportunity to reflect on who I am as a person. What are some things that I need to do to grow? And so I love that you had that experience with writing your book. I remember writing and crying and feeling so good afterwards, and that gave me the fuel literally to continue to write, want to do more to impact others, because I realize that everybody is not that strong. So that's my
You're
desire.
Yeah, you're right with that because in writing I had to there was a level of vulnerability that I had to be willing to share. And those that know me well know that I'm a really private person and I don't talk about a lot about how I feel. And it was cathartic for me and it helped me to realize everybody can push the button, but there's some things that you have to do. You have to decide that you want change. You have to decide I am in this space that is not healthy for me or is not positive for me and that I need to change. That's the first step. When I had breast cancer, I had to stop on a physical and emotional level and just accept the fact that I had breast cancer. Now that sounds kind of weird, but I was shocked, I was hurt, and I realized that I had to have the right mental attitude in order to really survive, but thrive, right? There's a big difference between surviving and thriving. And I really wanted to thrive. I didn't just want to be a statistic. And then the second thing I did is that I had to realize, all right, I got to take some action now. I accept the fact that I have breast cancer, but I have to process my emotions. And in processing my emotions, I had to give them a name. I had to say, I am angry, I am hurt, I am sad, I am ticked off at my own body. I feel let down. I'm looking at God like, what you doing? Why me? So I had to give all of those emotions a name. And once I gave them a name, you have to channel them in a positive way through journaling, through exercise, through reading, through meditation. There are a lot of different ways that you can positively leave stuff in the past that doesn't involve food, in my case, or I believe in prayer, but the Lord doesn't answer sometimes when we want or we don't always hear. And then we wind up feeling let down, right? Because we're pouring our heart out and it's just not in His timing at that moment. So it's important. I'm a firm believer in He gives us tools, He gives us knowledge so that we can do our part so He can come in and save the day.
Absolutely. And I firmly, people say, you got to have faith. Yeah, but faith without work is dead. You have
Absolutely.
to do the work. And the work has many layers, but I think that many of us, we want to just be like the microwave, 1 minute and it's done. But it's literally is a journey that you have to go through. But for me, in all the different journeys that I've gone through, I've picked up so many tools that whenever I experience life challenges today, I don't go back to that moment 30 years ago when I decided to take those 30 Tylenol. I pull out my tools, but I first recognize I'm not okay. And I pull out my tools, which are all of the things you mentioned, right? The meditation, the writing, the reflecting. But I also make it a point to text someone very close to me and just share with them, I'm not okay. And they know that that just means that right now I'm feeling a little rough, but if I need more support, they know that my next interaction is going to be a phone call or we're going to schedule a lunch date or whatever. But you have to, as you continue to grow and navigate, especially in, as my grandmother say, we living in the last days, times such as this, you really have to have a multitude of tools on your tool belt just to survive.
You absolutely do. And I know growing up, I didn't learn about self care. I learned how to care for others. I learned how to take care of others, do for others, be aware of others, but I didn't learn self care. So that was something that I learned as an adult. And particularly in this season that we are in right now as a country, as a community, I realized after the election cycle that there were some things that I needed to do. And I really took time. What is it that I need to do for myself? The highest level of self care. And for me, that looks like drinking my water, committing to exercise 2 to 3 times a week, journaling, meditation, and also having a positive attitude. I filtered out some of my news intake so that because I know my personality, I know how I respond to crazy stuff, I limit that. I let the people around me know I know y'all want to talk about it. Please don't be texting me and sending me all of this crazy stuff day in, day out because I'm shut down to it. Um, and I advocate for women, no matter what they are doing, you have to have that high level of self care right now. That looks different
Absolutely.
for everybody, but many of us don't even know what self care is. We're not in
Absolutely.
tune. We're not in tune to ourselves enough. And now, what I have done is I talk to my daughter about self care. And her form of self care is going to the gym. Did you go to the gym today? Are you okay? Did you go for your power walk today? Whatever it is that brings you that relief, that's what you have to gravitate to.
Absolutely. I love it. So listen, we are out of time, but I wanted to just call out that your blog is located where so that everybody could find it.
Yes, my blog is located at www.melaninpinkribbons.com. And you can find the blog there. Obviously, you can find me there. You can find the link to my two books there. And you can also find me on Instagram at author Cynthia Smalls or Melanin and Pink Ribbons on Instagram.
I love it. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on today to talk a little bit about your book, Push the Button. Make sure everybody can see it. And I wish you the best of luck in your assignment that you're on to help spread the word about breast cancer. And I think that one person at a time, we move the needle forward, but we just got to keep tapping into one person at a time. And that one person needs to tell someone else. And honestly, because I now know so many Black women who have been diagnosed with breast cancer, I have this heightened awareness of the disease, the condition, and but also a very sensitive perspective about it, right? To the extent that I want to make sure that anyone I come in contact with that they're getting their mammograms. And this is just a simple question: did you get your mammogram this year? You didn't? Okay, but let me help you. Let me help you figure out where's the closest place to you so that you can get your order and get the wheels in motion.
And there are resources out there. Let me just say this, there are resources out there for women who don't have insurance. There are organizations out there that, particularly in October, but there's some organizations that do it all year long. So all you have to do is, we all have these smartphones, right? We all have these smartphones. Make that smartphone work for you. Find out what resources are available to you so that you can be healthier, so that you can push the button and move it, leave that negative stuff, leave it behind, and come on over to the positive side and smile with us.
I love it. Well, that's a great place to end. So, listen, everyone, this has been another amazing episode of 52 Authors, 52 Weeks. We'll see you next week.